Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews at JTMatthews01 on the Twitter/X, and I'm here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning on the Twitter at @dr_Manning in Manning. Sorry, at @dr_in Manning on Twitter/X. Doc, how we doing? Happy Wednesday. We're back and at it.
Yeah. You know what? Rough start to the day. Good middle part of the day. So hopefully continue on the upward trend. I'm hanging in. How are you?
I'm good. Wifey went to a doctor's appointment. All things are good. And I got to pick up the kid, the preschooler. So we hung out and made PBJs and kicked it pretty low key Wednesday for me. So
nice.
I'm happy to just be chilling out, you know.
Nice. PBJs.
Yeah, PBJs.
Sounds
solid.
Delicious.
Definitely can go. I mean, that could definitely be worse for sure.
Yeah.
Gonna go coach some basketball later.
Okay.
Yeah. All in all, a solid day.
Yeah. All right. I dig it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk some sports. How about that? Let us start with the Colorado Avalanche. In the past week, we have had a pretty significant departure. I don't think we've talked about it yet. It hasn't been a full week yet.
No, happened over the weekend. Yeah. So this is we've talked about the thought of it, but not the deal itself. Nope, not quite yet.
Yeah. So Mikko Rantanen was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, and I think a pretty surprising but not surprising, right? Like, there was not really whispers of it necessarily going down so quickly. We all knew that there was kind of a chance that it could happen. We hadn't heard definitively, or at least I hadn't heard definitively one way or another, but it seemed like, the closer you get to the trade deadline, nothing's really happening contract-wise. You wonder if things are, obviously conversations are being had on the back end. Just kind of your feeling on the departure of Mikko, what we got in return. So we got two players of significance, Nikas and Rory, both guys who've been plugged into the lineup now and seem to be finding their way pretty well with this team. But just kind of your takeaway from that trade. Where do you think that was win or lose? I think that's always kind of a conversation. Like, do you win the trade? Do you lose the trade? Or is it kind of remain to be seen? Just kind of give me your gut reaction on that.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's always going to be a wait and see. But I do subscribe to the, whoever usually gets the best player wins the deal.
Sure.
And so from what I've seen so far since the deal, I think that the Avs could have done worse.
Yeah.
Getting Jack Drury, who's 24, and Nekas, who's 26. Both are under club control for a while. They both have scored, I think, at least a point in each of the last 3 games. I'm pretty sure. And Nekas has really been really solid so far. In the end, like, we're going to blink. It's going to be 4 years down the road. Do I think either of those guys will be better than Mikko is, even at 32, 33? No, probably not. Right. But with his contract expiring, you're never going to get equal value because, there's only so much leverage. You're going to lose him anyway, or at least that's the way that the team had felt. So it hurts not getting a first. I didn't really hang on to that when you and I first chatted about it until you said something we couldn't have gotten a first, even if it was maybe a couple years out or something.
Right.
Getting I believe they got a second and a fourth.
Second and a fourth, yeah.
Yeah. So not nothing. I mean, they got Devon Taves for 2 seconds, and so it's not like you can't wheel and deal. But I think with this return, they are not closer to winning a cup than they were before. Yeah. So my thought would be this has to be the first of a few. This can't be the one. I think if it's the one, maybe they make it to the second round. And part of that depends on Val coming back.
Yeah.
When Val's back, I think it's safe to say that potentially he's maybe outside of McCarr or McKinnon, the most valuable player, maybe even more than Mikko, just in terms of when you look at wins and losses when he's on the ice versus when he's not. So I bet that McFarland was looking at that too. And, we have money tied up in Val. We got money tied up in Nate. We got a good chunk of our salary tied into Taves and to McCarr, and we're going to have to extend McCarr here again. I think in 2027. And so I'm assuming all of that went in. I got excited when I saw that the Blackhawks were kind of in the deal, and maybe Taylor Hall was player to come back. Nope, actually Taylor Hall is going with Mikko to Carolina. Like, gosh, take it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I understand why they did it. It sucks. You're watching the Beatles break up a little bit, right? And at least looking around, USA Today gave the Avs a C-. New York Times gave the Avs a B-.
Okay.
And then let's see, we got Bleacher Report gave the Avs a B+.
Okay.
So I think the weight around is, that they like Nekas. They think he's a good fit, good checker, smooth skater. He's 6'2", I believe, so he's a bigger guy. He's not Mikko's, I think, stature, but someone that I think that we will be happy with. The hard part will be, are we as fans going to be able to separate who he was traded for?
Right.
And so, appreciate him for the player, not the player that he's replacing.
Yeah, it's tough. As obviously we're fans of the team, and Mikko was a big part of that cup run. He's been with this franchise for 10 years, and so it's hard to see a guy like that go. Ultimately, clearly they were trending towards a breakup anyways, and so I respect the fact that you kind of find the trade or the deal that works best for you in the moment. And I think that the one thing I'm glad they didn't do is just bet on a lot of really young talent. We got some guys that are young but have shown some upside already in the league. So whether they end up filling up to their potential or not, that's always going to be a question. It's just going to take time to see what happens there. But you're not betting on a 19-year-old kid. You're betting on a 24 and a 26-year-old guy that have a little bit of cachet in the league already, which I like.
And are under contract for the rest of this season and next season.
Right. Yes.
For a total of like $8.2 million total.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah. And I mean, Nikas is what, like 6.5 of that. So really you're getting some productive depth with that trade. You're reloading a little bit for the future with some draft picks, or you give yourself some flexibility in the trade market to have multiple draft picks to be able to offer to get additional depth. I think what you're going to find, I would be surprised if this is the last move that the front office makes, just because I think when you leave a void like you did with Mikko, then you're going to have to fill it in, and you can't fill it in with one or two guys. It's got to be. They're going to have to take a roster approach to this. They're going to have to really find guys that fill holes that needs that they have, as far as right now the power play is really struggling. Let's go find someone, maybe someone who's a middle line player that can really help us on that power play, that PK. Find guys that are you have a lot of guys who can score the puck, but maybe you need some facilitators, or maybe you need one more depth piece on the defensive side of the puck. Kale and Taves are doing great, but past Gerard and Manson, it's a little bit of a toss-up as to who's going to be out there and who's going to be effective on a day-to-day basis. So, like the flexibility, I think you feel good about when healthy. You feel good about the goaltending room. You feel good about your superstars, and you're just going to have to really build around those two main pieces in Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. And they have some resources to do this now. They've got a little bit. Actually, I don't know what their cap space is now. I'll have to look. But I'm guessing they freed up a little bit of cap space. And there's still some moves to be made. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, I'm taking more of a wait and see approach. It's hard to throw guys, especially guys who've been established with teams, into a new system and see them thrive. Though I do think, the Avalanche and Bednar kind of have a system that is complementary to those guys and how they like to play. I mean, we've seen Drury has 2 goals already. Nikas has 4 assists in 3 games. So, they're finding their way pretty quickly. Yeah. It's just a matter of, sustainability and kind of having everyone be able to kind of click on all cylinders when you get to the playoffs. And, it'll be a task, but I have confidence that with Nathan McKinnon at the helm and Cale Makar as kind of the co-pilot, that they can find their way.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, right? I mean, at least for a few seasons, Cale Makar is not going anywhere, and hopefully he won't. And Nate's going to be here for a long time, so it's a little bit of, lick your wounds and get out there and go win some hockey games. And January hasn't been kind. I don't think that they have won back-to-back games yet, so I haven't won 2 in a row this month. So it's been a challenge. Val probably won't be back till after the 4 Cups or the 4 Nations face-off, which I think is like mid to late November. So,
say November?
Oh, February. Whoa, not even like near. Yeah. So we'll kind of see what that's going to look like, but it'd be really important that when Val gets back, this team really starts stacking up some dubs. Last thing you want is you're a 8 seed, that's you're or a 7 and you're playing, top 2 teams in the conference. Makes a cup run pretty difficult. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they slot Val too, because I think he has first-line potential. I think he's shown he can play well with McKinnon. He's a big presence that you can park him down in front of the net. He seems to have good hands to get tip pucks, and it's a big body to screen. You like that. I don't know if you. I mean, it's going to make a difficult call probably about that third player on that line. Whether I guess really you could slot anyone beside Nate, and probably they do okay. But do you like the Drew with Nate connection that they had last year? Are you going to give that a run? Are you going to keep locking in on that top line, even though he's not really a puck control, like a puck carrying kind of player? He's more of a positional, do the dirty work kind of player. But Val's kind of that player too. So it's just about finding that chemistry. And Nikas, I think, works really well with McKinnon. They both have a lot of speed. I think that's how they want to attack the zone. I think they're giving Nikas the ability to kind of enter the zone with the puck because that's a really big asset for them. Right. So it's just a matter of kind of, you got to reshuffle the lineups. You're going to have to figure out what works, and it's going to take some time. It's I would like to say, they'll find it figured out quickly and get on a win streak, and we'll feel a little bit better. But it may be a little bit of a drag for a while until they can kind of get it all worked out.
Yeah. Yep. I think we got to be prepared for what that might look like. And absolutely, it might be a little rocky. But, at least from all the outlets, it doesn't look like, for the most part, that the Avs got robbed.
No. Yeah,
but they must have. There had to be some clarity from their perspective that this wasn't going to end well, because, I don't think that the trade deadline is until mid-March, right?
Yeah, there's some time, yeah.
Yeah. So to make that deal in January, while Val's on the shelf, I think, goes to show either how great they thought this deal was, or the door was slammed shut. And you know what? To be honest, if the rumors are true, and Mikko wanted Leon Draisaitl money, I think it's like 14 plus or something. I think he would make. I think they said like 15% of the Avs salary cap if he were to go to that number.
Yeah,
love Mikko. Yeah, at least for my small non-hockey brain, I don't know. I'm paying a winger that, and I do believe that they want to make him the highest paid winger. Him and Draisaitl share agents, so no doubt that conversation. If you're money driven, which it sounds like Mikko. I don't know. I wouldn't say money driven, but
sure.
I think you're a professional athlete. You got a certain amount of window to maximize your asset as you. So I don't even fault him for that. If that's the case, he's like, no, I want to maximize my dollars. I want to be. I know I can get this, and I had said this kind of before. Once you're at the free agency window, unless you really love the place, I would take it. There's no incentive to not go to free agency to get the maximized dollar, especially if you're going to get overpaid because of how free agency works. So good for him and using that. It sucks because it would have been nice for that to end or not end, just yet. But we'll see if the deal itself, it'll be interesting. It's those big time deals where you trade away assets. So trading away Von Miller. Second to third at the time sounded great. Didn't do real much with them. And I think it was Javante. I think that was the pick, maybe. Kind of. Anyway, but Nolan Arenado didn't get much. And then Carmelo, which jump started the rebuild for the Nuggets, and landed us Nikola Jokic. So without that deal happening and being able to reset, we're not in the golden era that the Nuggets are. So in Denver sports, hasn't been a lot of you win the deal when you trade the star out.
Right.
That said, he's one of the few that has been in their prime when you're trading him out. So, don't do what the Rockies did, essentially, please.
Yeah. Don't pay someone else to
take your future Hall of Famer. And at best, you get a number 4 starter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, it'll be an interesting journey for them to kind of figure this out. But as you were saying before we started, they got some teams coming up on the schedule that they should be able to beat with St. Louis and Philly. Teams that are somewhat competitive. Yeah, the Blues always tend to play us pretty tough. And it's always nice to beat Jordan Binnington, so that we're going to win. But regardless, this chance for them to get back on track, put together some positive shifts, and some, even if they're not, they don't need to be pretty wins right now, as long as they're getting to that, getting those points and getting back into that conversation as far as the playoffs. I'm fine with that trajectory. I'm okay with the trajectory now. I would like to see him make 1 or 2 more moves just to kind of shore up those middle lines, or those.
If they only had one deal to make, what would you? I don't need a name necessarily. I mean, but what would you want if they only got one deal to make? It would be impact at.
I would say some defensive depth. I like your top 4 guys. I kind of mostly like your top 3 guys in Makar, Taves, and Gerard. Manson, I don't love, but he brings a toughness that I think that the team needs. And he does some things. Well, he's pretty sound. He just isn't, he's 33. He's getting up there as far as his mobility, that sort of thing. So I'd like to see, them go get another guy that they can put out there for penalty kill situations. Or if they really want to lean into the offense like they have, just go get another defenseman that has some offensive upside. I think we thought Gerard might hit that. He seems to I don't know. He's not a real aggressive offensive player. He has moments where he uses the speed, but that's not really what he's developed into. He's been kind of more of a sit back and take some opportunities when you have him to shoot from the point, or use your speed to beat a guy down to get a little bit closer and take a shot there. But he's not been a goal scorer, really significant goal scorer. So if you think that you can get someone that fits your offensive scheme a little bit better, go that way. But I would just love someone that you could put out there on the penalty kill with Devon Taves or Devon Taves and or Kale, and just like know that they're gonna be where they're supposed to be and do what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
And give their team an opportunity to bounce back from a PK situation, something like that. That's probably what I would go with.
Yeah, I like it. Yep. I would always, it's kind of like if you could get a top 3 line forward that really is inept at play. I mean, that really is skilled at playing, the whole sheet of ice. You need someone, I think, upgrading or having more pieces for your penalty kill and your power play. So I think someone that can come and contribute on either of those. I would take it if it's a defenseman. If they get a good shot from the point, they're good in PK. I think that this team has struggled a little bit with, especially lately, giving up and hasn't been really good on the power play. So, anything that I think could give you a jolt in the special teams. I think would be good, because I think, when you go into the postseason, when you get a power play, you have to capitalize. And if you do, the percentage of you winning that game, goes up pretty significantly. And on the other side, if you don't, or they capitalize on their power play, it obviously will have the adverse effect. So hope they can make a move there, bring something in. But you know what? They're kind of sharing some of the similar frustrations to their neighbors across the hall.
Yeah. I would be surprised if they're done making moves. But we'll see how these pieces kind of gel and go from there. At least they have some assets to do something if they need to, or whether that be mid-season or during the off-season. Let's transition. Talk about the Denver Nuggets a little bit. Not playing real well lately. I think at some point they were like 14-3 in their last 17 or something like that. 1-2 in their last 3 games, losing to most recently the Chicago Bulls, who are not. They're kind of a bubble playoff team in the East. A few questions for you, just because I want to get your perspective. I want to go back to the trade scenarios. Do you feel like this team, as compiled today, given where they are through the season, do they need to consider making a trade? And that probably meaning moving Michael Porter Jr.
No, I think I just think what's actually available out there to trade MPJ for. Because I think you got to get youth and 3-point shooting back.
Yeah.
The thought of Jimmy Butler was kind of fun at first.
Sure.
I think bringing that sort of influence into the locker room, I don't know if this team would handle it well. I think when Nikola Jokic isn't the most vocal, it's not like Kobe Bryant's here, or Shaq, or that kind of alpha mentality. So I don't think that would be a good fit. Bradley Beal obviously is a tremendous shooter and a great scorer, but scoring points isn't their problem.
Right.
So they need to, defend and rebound, and at least MPJ does one of those. So, and as a quality 3-point shooter. So I don't think so. I would like them to make one, and really it would be depth. I think getting anyone that can, like you and I have talked about, that does something really, really well off the bench, plays D, rebounds, or shoots the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even need all 3, because to be honest, if you could do all 3, you should be starting. But I like where this team's at in the sense of, healthy Aaron Gordon. You have I think if you have a healthy top 8, with Peyton Watson or Julian Straw, they're being able to be a consistent contributor in the postseason. I think that they'll be fine with what they got.
Yeah.
You saw what happened when they got healthy. They started clicking, and then you see when Aaron Gordon falls out, like that kind of stuff. I think there's some concern there, but it's a team. I think if they're healthy, they can win any 7-game series with anyone in the NBA. So if that's the case, I don't think they need to make a trade. I'm not as dire as I agree with you in your assessment of the Avs. There needs to be another move. And if not, I think that there will be a revolt, which says a lot because Avalanche fans aren't angry people.
Right.
It's not like football fans. It's like, I think Calvin Booth, if he can make some way he's able to get Zeke out, brings anything back, like, I'll give you a cookie. Like, good job.
Okay.
But no, I don't think so. I'd love to, but I don't even know. I don't think there would be a good enough return or, someone that could, maybe with Kyle Kuzma, it's a little bit of, but I feel like Kyle Kuzma's the same. Jordan Clarkson, like they're kind of the same. Right. They bring maybe a little bit more tenacity-ish. No, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So unless anyone was going to give up on maybe a lottery pick, on a crappy team, and they're just like, we'd rather take a swing at Michael Porter Jr. and having him be a second option here. Let's trade you maybe a good bench guy and a lottery player that just hasn't panned out for us. I'd feel much better about the Nuggets developing someone's talent, Charlotte, etc. But no one off the top of my head, I'd be like, oh, let's go get that guy. So do you got anything in mind that you're like, yeah, if we added, and I mean like this guy, I think we know but what's really out there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the urgency. But Zach LaVine looked pretty good against the Nuggets. And
he's looked good all year. And it's like the healthiest he's been in a long time, too. Shocker.
And I know.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he was maybe a little more motivated last game with all the talk about trade to either make a statement and say, this is what you're missing out on if you're not interested, or B, this is what you could have, if you decide to pull the trigger, if it's an opportunity still. It made me wonder.
I like that. Yeah.
It made me wonder.
You were not on the Zach LaVine train.
I was not.
Not just you, but you and a lot of other people. Do you feel different after watching him live? Because to be honest, like, I'm not catching a ton of Bulls games and watching start to finish what Zach LaVine can do, but he's a better 3-point shooter than Michael Porter Jr. He's a better scorer than Michael Porter Jr. I think he can jump. So rebounding, I think if you had effort plus athleticism, he's a guard, but he's got, like, we all know he's got bounce. So could he get you some good guard rebounds? 5, 6 a game, maybe, probably. But it's not 10 or 11. So do you feel different?
The more that I think about it, the more I'm intrigued by it.
Okay.
And I think I like the yeah, I know. I'm definitely backtracking.
But I think with new information, you're allowed. I mean, you should recheck. Like, you should. All right, you know what? Better than I remember.
I just think that there's a level of, I don't want to say staleness, but I think there's some staleness to this team.
I think that's a perfect adjective. Yep.
And I think that maybe a change would be good for them, and not just bringing in a Russell Westbrook on minimum contract kind of change, but kind of shaking it up a little bit and putting pressure on Jamal Murray a little bit. And not with a guy who's 37 years old, but a guy who's young and can play for quite a bit longer. A guy who's gonna demand the ball more. Maybe would be a good thing. I like kind of the idea of a Murray, LaVine, Gordon, Peyton Watson, Jokic lineup. Like, having Peyton Watson in that starting unit, he is impressing more and more. I still think he has limitations, obviously, offensively, but his ability to cover guards is going to be a huge thing, especially come playoff time. When you have a Jamal Murray who can struggle in matchups, or if he doesn't have the same, he's not able to give the same effort. Gives you two legitimate ball handlers, whereas last playoffs they would press Jamal all the way down the court. They started doing this thing with Aaron Gordon and having him bring it up. But it just gives you someone who can create and take advantage of opportunities. So if they're pressing and Levine beats them down the court, then you've got an odd man situation. You've got such good personnel at that point that you're probably going to be able to score. I don't know. I do worry about taking away some of the height and length. I do worry about taking away, arguably one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. I think that's hard to replace.
Even though you're adding a guy that's a better 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. But it's just a matter of role responsibility and how people are able to kind of fill that out, because I think you've got to get better rebounding from the guard position if you give up MPJ. He's a decent rebounder. He doesn't always do it every night, but he's had a number of double-doubles this season, just going and hanging around the rim and how you get his height. You've got to do better team rebounding. You can't rely on Jokic to get 15-plus rebounds a game. I worry about that. I worry about offensive rebounding the same way, their ability to kind of match up size-wise and keep them off the glass. There are definitely some question marks for me, but I'm intrigued. I just think that they need a little more. As much as I love Jokic ball and Jokic-centric ball, I think it would be nice to have someone you can feel like you can reliably count on to create their own shot. And I think with Russ, you get that a little bit, but his ability to finish is always a little bit shaky. Jamal is so hit and miss game to game. Like, if you can get a few guys that you can rely on, even if it's not night to night, if Jamal can do it one night and Levine can do it the next night, just sets your team up to be more successful, I think. And so, am I dying for them to make a trade? No. I still think that they have pieces that they can win with here.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd be as upset as I would have a month ago, with the idea of them bringing on Levine and moving Michael Porter Jr. out, if that's something they decided to do.
I like it. You know what? And I think he's got a couple years still left on his deal. So it's at least one of those where maybe, it's not a rental, which would put this team in a difficult spot considering the aprons. They wouldn't be able to add outside the org. But yeah, I think, let's do it. Let's start it. We're pro bring Zach in.
I mean, and of course, part of it's a narrative, right? Like, I'm definitely making up this thing that he's more motivated to play the Nuggets because of all the trade rumors. But if he is, that's kind of an exciting thing, right? He can get up and be excited to be on the team.
Yeah,
absolutely, for sure. And it feels like we've been so limited with the moves that we've been able to make, or have even been able to talk about with Jamal and Aaron Gordon not being available to be on the trade block. It's just, you wonder if maybe breaking up the band a little bit would be good for this team, and you can kind of redesign them a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, Levine. Do you know what Levine's cap hit is? Would we actually be saving money?
I think it's 40.
Okay, so it's probably a little bit more. So we have to send out.
It's a little bit more than. Let's see here. 43 million.
43.
Yeah, and so he's got.
You probably have to throw
43 this year, 40, essentially 46 next year. Player option for 49 in 2026. So a likelihood that you'll probably have him for 3 years, essentially for about 122 million over those 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be paying him as that much more than you're playing MPJ anyways. I think
to be honest, if they make that move for Zach, then I would think if they don't win it, right, that Jamal really would be on the block next. I mean,
For
because
sure.
you essentially you could bring Russ back, have Russ at the 1, you got Zach at the 2, or Zach is your primary ball handler with, because I think he's a better playmaker than Jamal is, and so you know what? Now that you said it, I think.
Well, the other thing too is like athleticism too, right? Like Jamal's not your most athletic guard. Obviously, Jokic isn't a big athletic.
And he's a smaller guard. He's not.
Yeah,
he's not short, but he's definitely not a imposing presence. Yeah, so MPJ is at 35, almost 36 this year. So yeah, okay. I mean, and I think the rumor was they balked at Zeke. But, maybe, just maybe. I mean, no one else is going to take Zach LaVine, I don't think. Maybe you send Dario. Ideally, they take one of those. I mean, essentially, you need one of those guys to go out. Would you trade a Strother? Would you trade Julian Strother and PJ to get that deal done?
Yeah, that's trickier. I think.
Yeah, my feeling would be if you were to add that, then I'd say you got to take Zeke, and then you got to give me maybe a Patrick Williams, which I don't do, but or what's their center's name? Big early. Yeah. I mean, give me back someone that can, that can chip in and help out in the postseason.
I think if you get rid of Strother,
Torrey Craig, come back.
I mean, sure. Someone at least that's a defensive presence, you can rely on.
Right. Like, again, someone that does one of the three things really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you get rid of Strother, then you'd have to bring someone back. And again, like, then you're asking the question is like, are we giving up too much offense, to bring in one player? Strother has been playing better of late. He had a game against Philly. I think he had 5 threes, like he's shooting the 3 ball a little bit better.
Yeah, he is.
So, you don't want to lose all of your shooting. It is a tough. It probably would be tough to make it work. But I think if they wanted to make it work, they would make it work. And maybe that just means you're kind of setting up for an off season where you're really making some bigger trades and bigger moves and reforming that team around Jokic. So, something to consider. It's just a funny time, and maybe too because they haven't looked great in the last couple of games. I'm a little worried about the workload that Jokic is carrying. When we get to playoff time, and so just worth rehashing. I think, as especially as the trade deadline comes.
I agree.
Closer.
I agree.
All right. Well, let's talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about. So I want to talk to Deion Sanders and the report that he was never really a serious candidate for the Cowboys coaching gig. I kind of just want to get your feeling on the hiring of coaches around the NFL, the Rooney Rule. Whether you think that the way that they're doing is effective, or is there something that they can do to improve just kind of the hiring process in general around the playoffs and all of that, and to be kind of the effectiveness of the Rooney Rule, and if whether it's something that is just kind of there and people are, they are not using it in the way that was intended to be implemented. So give you a little soapbox.
Yeah, I think as a first step, I think the thought behind the Rooney Rule is phenomenal, and essentially for any GM, head coach, and I think coordinator now, because essentially, right, a lot of black coaches don't find the offensive side of the ball. They're mostly coaching on defense. We've all seen it's a pass-happy offensive league. Most people that get promoted to head coaches are offensive-minded guys, et cetera, et cetera. And so, one, it is good in the sense of even if they tokenize the coach, they could interview with someone that goes or switches staffs and remembers that interview and then utilizes that as that data as, that person's a really good candidate for us here. I interviewed him over at wherever. And so it's never bad to get people interviews. So that said, you and I talked about, like, Mike Vrabel was going to get the job in New England and it was a formality. And so I think the issue being is guys want to get on it fast, right? And then some teams can't because of playoffs, and so they can't talk to guys during this period and that period. You're looking at it now, right? I think the Saints very much are going to land on Kellen Moore, but can't do it because they got to wait till after the Super Bowl, which is to name a head coach. They already have their staffs. They've already made phone calls, things like that. There is a college recruiting. So why you need to jump on it with getting a guy in your program 2 weeks earlier. So I think if the NFL were to do anything to make that, like, nope, you can't hire coaches until after the Super Bowl. And so to give everyone an opportunity to enter the market at the same time, same funds, all that good stuff. I think if you're able to do that, I think it would slow down some of the necessary need to, because a lot of times maybe the guy that you hire is simply his connection to offensive and defensive coordinators, and you fall in love with the staff, and you're not able to, or the hurry to get them in the door before Team Z does after their playoff game. I think then you're not going to be open to a broad applicant base, right? Or candidate base. You want to get a good person in, and you want to get them fast. And so I think that's the detriment. So I do think that the influence of the 2 third-round compensatory picks for a GM getting a promotion, a Black GM or person of color, minority candidate, women as well, and head coaching or the GM role, I do think that has helped in head coaches promoting Black coaches into coordinator positions, the opportunity for them to move on and get promotions. So I do think that it's helped. Has it fixed it? No. But I think it's been positive. I think I would like them to see some more progress. And I think you could do that simply by, can't hire coaches until after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Do you think that and this is just came to me, I mean, we're seeing more and more Black quarterbacks, being effective in both the passing game and the running game. It's not kind of this rare sight to see anymore. Mm-hmm. The game is adapted into a way where having a mobile quarterback has been really, part of most teams' attack plans, whether that be Lamar Jackson or a guy like Josh Allen. Do you think that should kind of the emergence, I'll say, of kind of the Black quarterback has enabled people to kind of see a growth as far as offensive coaching and the ability to put a minority candidate in an offensive role, just because the game's changing that way?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think being able to associate a player with the most demand and the complexities of NFL offense now to everybody, right? And even look at Bryce Young. Bryce Young is as big as me, And the fact that he's Black, was first overall pick, and is slight. I think now more than ever, probably the NFL is, if you're a good player, regardless of what position. And on the flip side, I do think that there is a stigma with white athletes being able to play corner.
Yeah, sure.
I think that was very real. I think Cooper DeJean and Riley Moss have shown, hopefully younger generations of white kids, that you can be a corner too. You don't have to be a slot receiver. You can be, but I do think some of that stigma and some of that assumptions that were made. We could argue out of the top 10, majority of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL are Black.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the draft last year, Caleb Williams and
Daniels go 1 and 2. Michael Penix is in the top 10, right? So 50% of the quarterback first round pool was Black. Spencer Rattler, who was the 7th quarterback taken. So I 100% I do. I think the NFL slowly but steady is moving to I think a more equitable environment where I also think that they, easing up on marijuana and things like that. I think that really kind of targeted a culture of people or group of people, not just all that stuff. So I think that they're getting better. A long ways to go, but definitely getting better.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit of Broncos too. Then
let's do it.
We've got reports that Bo Nix is may have been offered a Pro Bowl position that he turned down due to a procedure.
He did, and Russ got it, which is funny.
Oh, is that who ended up taking it? Because I know I saw Drake May was in the conversation.
Drake May and Russ, which I
think
is awesome.
That is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's like my leftovers, right? Like, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Which is pretty amazing for a rookie, even as an alternate, to get
100%.
an offer. I would be interested to see if he was healthy, if he would have taken it or not. Quinn Miners was offered an alternate position and turned it down, per reports, because
which is a little shocking. Like, those are good negotiate. Those are good for it's a free trip to Orlando. I don't know if it's free actually, but
right. I don't know.
Good for Quinn to say, you know what, if he's got other plans, family, I don't know, whatever, like not breaking them, or nope, I'm not going to cover for a Chief. You should have called out the right way, Thuney.
Right.
I think if Bo Nix were healthy and we're going to get work done, I would think he would have went. And I think it's a good representative of the Broncos. I think he would have went one, probably even to go recruit. That's be a lot of the players that are in the Pro Bowl that are available next year. I mean, John Elway, he did that. Peyton did that. So I would have liked that. I mean, but in the end, did I blame Quinn Miners for not wanting to play in a flag football game? No.
Right. No, I'm not. I'm not mad about it. But it is one of those resume boosting things, like you said. Like, maybe it is a good indicator to me that he's not looking too far into the future about what'll look good on a resume when he becomes a free agent, etc. Hopefully that doesn't, obviously not the ways down the road with the new deal, but it's nice to know that he's committed to the team, and that's probably where his head's at the moment. I feel a lot of buy-in from this roster, and it's nice to have that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spring something on you because we didn't talk about it ahead of time.
Okay. I like springing stuff.
I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name some of the young guys on the Broncos roster.
Okay.
And just kind of, I want to get your take on upside, or if it's someone that the Broncos should be looking at as a piece moving forward, and I want to go through just a few different guys because of, we're in draft season again. We're talking about ways that this team can improve, areas that this team can improve. And I want to kind of get like your feeling on what their upside is, but also B, are they going to be able to fill a certain role within this offense or defense? I want to start with Marvin Mims. He really didn't come on until the second half of the season. I think he had a total of 7 touchdowns this season, something like that, right around 600 yards. I might be off on those numbers a little bit, but what do you think the ceiling is for a player like Marvin Mims? Obviously, he's got some ability. He seems to be finding his way a little bit. Do you see him as a legit wide receiver 2? Do you see him ever ascending to anything beyond that? Or is he kind of squarely in that wide receiver 3-4, and he's just more of an offensive guy?
That's interesting. That's good. He's the guy that was a world-class athlete coming out of Texas. I think owns the receiving records when you look at Des Bryant, etc., guys like that. They're not the ones that lead in that department. It's Marvin freaking Mims. And so I think he has a pretty high ceiling. I think his speed, 4.38 speed, gets good separation, good start and stop. You saw it on some of the big plays. You saw it against Cincinnati, where he's able to track a ball, go make a play. And so he's only 5'11", but he's able to leverage and win some of those routes. I think my worry is just, again, his ability to do small stuff. And so I hope what we saw is a good overall picture of him taking steps to be a guy. I think if it's me, he's a good number 2.
Okay.
To be honest, if I'm thinking of a number one, I'm thinking of someone that, I mean, physically imposing, and whether that's Tyreek Hill and you can't catch me, or or most of the top receivers in the NFL, right? Even up and coming ones like Nico Collins, et cetera. Those guys are, 6'2" plus 200 pounds. Like they can run by you, but really, they outmatch you and all those things. And I think for the Broncos, I think Marvin Mims is a good building piece moving forward. I think he absolutely is a weapon, but I don't think him or Cortland are players that I would say like, their presence elevates the entire group to whatever. I think if you add one good alpha receiver to that group, that's pretty nasty. That's pretty nasty threesome.
Oh, for sure. I wonder though, like, because we've been doing a lot of mock drafts, that sort of thing. We've been looking at free agency. I think Cortland's your number one right now. I think arguably he's maybe a number two on a really great team, or on a really good team even. So I wonder a little bit about the approach and upgrading that room, and whether that's something that they need to do sooner than later. As far as, are you counting on your 1 and 2 to be Court and Mims essentially next season, or that's something that they need to address? Because I wonder, because there are some young talented wide receivers in this draft class that you could look at and say, hey, we think they've got wide receiver one potential, whether that is something you see immediately or not. Then you have to start talking about, okay, where does that leave space for everyone else in this room? Yeah, I think Mims is interestingly, like, kind of, I wouldn't say on the bubble, but it means he's definitely going to be on this roster come next season. But is the expectation that you grow him into a wide receiver too, or is the expectation that he kind of stays more of a offensive gimmick? Create opportunities for him with play calling. I wonder, and I wonder how you approach it. Yeah.
When they draft him, you move up to get a guy in the second round. I hope that their thought isn't he's trick gadgety guy is enough. And I think for him, if he wants to be something more, this next year is going to be big for him. But if I'm the Broncos, I don't think that you could go into next year saying, "Yep, we're going to compete with, with Kansas City and everything that they do with Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton."
Right.
Maybe if they got, a Tank Dell type that can take the top off, but is a good slot, or a guy that can be a big slot, Michael Thomas, that kind of role, then sure, could you get a really dynamic third where then you have jump ball Court, you got deep ball Mims, and then you got, Shifty works the middle. I would be okay with that. Maybe that's you got 3 number 2s on your team, and you know what? Like, that's not bad. But right now, no, I don't. I think that they better be able to say, hey, you know what? We think that Marvin Mims can be a 80 for 1,200 and 8 touchdowns kind of guy.
Yeah.
I hope that they don't go into the off season without some insurance, even if it's aging, even if it's like Hopkins, like someone that, on 3rd and 6, I'm going to get you the rock and you're going to get us first down. And I don't, neither of those guys to me are, as Ryan Edwards says, the easy button. Like, yep, no, we got it. Like 5-6 yards, we got it. I think that that's what this team needs.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wonder how they'll attack that, or if they're just happy to let them develop another year in the system and see what happens.
I mean, I hope not. Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because I think
really
that the prevailing feeling, at least on Broncos Twitter, is probably wide receiver is not your top need in the draft. But at the same time, it's just one of those rooms that feels like it's a little bit mid compared to some of the other rooms in the league. And when you have a young quarterback, you want to give him weapons, and maybe that this year is the year of the tight end or whatever that we're all hoping that that we end up snagging in the draft. But it's just it made me. I was thinking about that today a little bit, so I wanted to ask you. We'll ask you the same question about Riley Moss. I think throughout the season, both of us have been pretty high on Riley Moss. I think since coming back from his injury, what was that against Cincinnati? I think.
Yeah, it was a strained MCL, something like that.
Yeah. He kind of had some ups and some downs, I would say. Obviously, when you're going against Joe Burrow, you're going to get torched some. We definitely saw that, but we saw some highs with him as well, his ability to cover without getting penalized. I think that's something that we had struggled with over the last couple of years. What is your expectation for Riley Moss in the next 1, 2, 3 years? Is he a legit CB2 for this team, or is that something that they still have to feel out?
Yeah, I think he's a legit number 2.
Okay.
Would I be mad if they brought in another uber talented corner? Nope. To be honest, I really like Jaquan and what Jaquan provides. I think you could upgrade that position to someone that, again, has plus size. And adding that, Riley's not little, but he's not big. I think he's 6 foot. 200 pounds or 195, which isn't small. But they don't. And Pat plays. I mean, Pat's ideal size, but doesn't really play like a big physical corner. So having maybe someone like that, I would be for. I don't know that I would mark that as a priority. I definitely wouldn't go out and sign a big ticket guy, but I'd bring in a vet who, you brought up Stephon Gilmore before. Sure, I'd take Gilly. I'd take. I think Patrick Peterson's out of the NFL now, but that kind of player.
Sure.
But you know what? They still got maybe a little bit in the tank, and come and really push Riley to continue to be better. So I don't want Riley to rest and think that he's made it. That would be my worry. So, but in terms of on the field, I think that you're set at least at your 1, 2, 3 there, barring a real good value. I think you're okay there. I definitely think continue to raise the floor, bring some 5th, 6th, 7th guys that with some upside, with special teams in mind, that kind of stuff, I think would be the way that I would focus. So I'm good with Riley.
Okay. Yeah, I think I feel similarly. I do worry a little bit, but mostly about his health and not about his play on the field.
Yeah.
I think, as a young player, he's going to be inconsistent. He's going to struggle against some of your top wide receivers in the league, especially when the second receiver on a team is T. Higgins. Those are going to be tough matchups, I think, for any CB2. But I think I mostly agree. I think he has upside, CB2 upside. I think he can fill that role admirably. I think he can be a cornerback too on a successful playoff, potentially more team. I just want to get your feel for one more. I don't have a player per se, but I just want to get your feeling on this edge rusher group that the Broncos deploy. I think it's pretty safe to say that we feel good about Nick Benito and how he's progressing. I think he's got some real top end talent in this league. I think he can be a top 10 sack guy, a top 10 pass rusher. I like the things that you get from Jonathan Cooper. I think he's physical. I think he is, a relentless kind of high motor that you can always rely on to be there and be in the right spot. I think once you kind of get outside of those two, you have a lot of guys that have some upside, but I don't know who you feel very good about. Is this an area that you would try and tackle with maybe, more veteran free agent in the offseason? Is this somewhere you would consider taking a higher draft pick to get an edge, some additional help on the edge? That way it's more of a instead of like kind of a 2-man plus whoever you decide to slot in there. It's someone with some additional upside that can maybe push Jonathan Cooper to be more of a solid, stalwart rotational player.
Mm-hmm.
How would you address that? Because I feel like that is an area that the team needs to address a little bit.
Yeah. I would always add, right? It's like wide receivers, running backs, edge rushers. In my opinion, like linemen, I'm drafting them every year.
Yeah.
Every year. One, because you need more of them. Right. You need defensive linemen. You need more of them than linebackers, right? On the field at a time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So having versatile guys that can do stuff, I would always invest in.
Sure.
I like the 4. I like Jonah Ellis. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he was selected to the all-rookie team. I don't know if it's first or second team, but so solid start there. DeAndre Tillman, I think, is a nice find.
Yeah,
I think Jonathan Cooper. Yep, much your kind of stout, strong side.
Yeah.
Side. And Nick kind of fills in that other part. I would always add to that room. I think if there were, would be one of those kind of weird things where, if one of the top defenders or edge defenders falls to the Broncos at 20, there's no good value for, tight end. There's no good value there. Genty's gone. Yep. Like I wouldn't be mad for sure. Right. Like I think we all understand how much you're going to rotate those guys a lot. And so I think Jonah Ellis is going to be a nice player, but he's not a great player. And so if you can add someone that's going to be a great player at a position that is cost controlled, because edge is going to get paid a lot. So I would be for it. My theory, to be honest with you, is I only would draft the cornerstone positions in the first round for the most part is quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle, or 5, I guess, corner and pass rusher. So if they aren't that, not drafting them, not drafting a running back, not drafting probably not even an interior offensive lineman, because I think you get really good ones mid. So, yep, I would, if there's, top 10 prospect that falls to you at 20. Yep. I'm going to go get that. And you know what? We'll figure out how to find a tight end somewhere else, kind of thing.
Yeah. Makes sense. I worry about that room just a little bit. And I think Ellis will be a good player, but I do wonder what his ceiling is. It's hard to say after one season. I think he hasn't given me any reason to be out on him per se. But I think when you're working with so many young guys, it leaves a layer of just uncertainty. A development. You've really got to focus on the development of some of these guys. And so far, it's been good with Cooper, and it's been good with Benito. So I'm hoping that trend continues. But I also wonder if it may be good just to get a more proven commodity in that room. And like you said, I think if the right guy is there at 20, you consider taking an edge. I think arguably a top 3 most important position, definitely top 5 most important position. So just from a value perspective, it's never a bad thing.
Agreed. Never a bad thing.
But this is a team that generated a lot of sacks, so maybe I'm overthinking it a little bit on a personnel perspective. But it'll be fun to kind of see what happens with that. Yeah. We are out of time.
Oh, hold on really quick before we go.
Wait. Okay.
Less than 2 minutes, guys.
Okay.
How far away from me from the Super Bowl, from being a true contender, are the Denver Broncos? Our guy David says they're 2 years away from being the Super Bowl. I mean, not playoff contender, not challenging for wild card, can go toe-to-toe with Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. How far are the Denver Broncos from playing for a Super Bowl?
2 years away. I think that's too soon. Okay. I would say 3 to 5. I would probably lean more towards 5, and just from a Bo Nix is a rookie, and there's a lot of room for him to grow. I think that we've got 1 year of offense with him at the helm under our belts. There's going to be adjustments that need to be made. There's going to be personnel that they need to upgrade. It's going to take time, especially with the cap restriction that you still have to a degree. You're not going to be able to go buy someone and fill in those holes right away. I think it's going to a lot depend on development. I think it's going to depend on the development and who you bring in and who you're able to kind of coach up and fill in those spots short term.
Okay.
But then, kind of getting that flexibility at some point to be able to go at a significant piece or two down the line when you have only 1 or 2 holes to fill. I think right now there's more than 1 or 2 holes to fill on this team to make them take that next step. I mean, we saw how we fared against the Bills. There was just a difference. There's just a difference in the personnel and the roster construction in the top end talent right now. Not to say I don't think the Broncos have a talented roster, because I think they do, but it's just the completeness of the talent on that roster versus the completeness of the talent of the Broncos roster is they're just a few years apart for sure. So I would say probably closer to 5, but I'll split the middle and I'll say about 4 years away.
Okay.
What do you think?
Dumb. Don't come to. No, I'm just kidding. Now, I think they are entering the window.
Okay.
So we saw Jane Daniels, similar, organization in a rough spot, new coach, new gym come in. Broncos essentially with Bo Nix mirrored that. They were able to make a good, solid playoff run, and play for the NFC Championship. I think that the Broncos I think their window to really kind of thrust to get there, is the next 2 years. I say that because they have some pretty solid cap room this next year, with, in my opinion, no one that you really need to bring back now that they've kind of extended the guys that they've extended. I think there's opportunities too to free up some money from some vets who you probably don't need, to add some additional cap room. And so I think the window starts now.
Okay.
And goes into next year. So I think that by 2026, the 2026 season, I think they'll be real contenders. There's Russell Wilson is all the way off the books. So you're playing flush with cash. It'll be the second year back-to-back where you've entered the offseason with all of your picks. And so I think with that arsenal, Bo Nix's growth, increased salary cap, access with the richest owners in the NFL. I would assume Travis Kelce, to be honest with you, I think in at least 2 seasons, Travis Kelce is probably gone.
Yeah.
Especially if they win a 3-peat, he might walk out now. So I think Kansas City kind of comes back to the pack a little bit. I think there's going to be some change probably at some point in Buffalo if they can't really get over the hump.
Right.
And love Lamar, but the way that Lamar plays, I think that there's some kind of return to the mean. So I think if they have a good offseason, the Broncos have a good offseason, and really bring in some impact players, I think that window could start as early as next year. But I expect this team to be there in 2026. 2025 would be nice. 2026 for sure. It better not sound crazy to put you next to a potential Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah. No, I like that. It just is, for me, it's going to take, it's going to take Nick Benito getting to the next level. It's going to take Riley Moss getting to the next level. It's going to take Martin Mims getting to the next level.
Yep.
And you've got to hit on all those, and so it makes it real tricky. But I would love, obviously, that's the best case scenario. I'd love that for them to be competitive next year again, for them to keep pushing the envelope would be a beautiful thing to see.
It's not like you're rooting against the Broncos. It just seems a little murkier than I think that it might be. That's fair.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. I knew I was forgetting something. My bad. Let's transition out though. Appreciate you guys being here and watching and listening along with us. Feel free to comment. We'll throw your comments up there during the stream. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter. We got our handles up here at JTMatthews01 at the_Manning as well. Hit us up. Let us know if there's anything you want to talk about in future incoming shows. I think maybe next week we'll put some mock drafts together. How about that? We haven't done that yet, and we're always doing it on the side.
Love it.
So we may as well bring them to the table and see what people think.
Just like sexy, let's bring it back.
So yes, of all the people, we will bring that back for sure. But thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. And remember, if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
I'm right here.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute. Work hard for the car, so that's why it's all tinted.